right, I'm Ann Carmichael with Leela, and I want to talk to you tonight about the college financial aid process. As we move through the slides, if you have any questions, just drop them in the Zoom chat box and we'll address them at the end of the session. So the first thing to understand is that college can be expensive, and it's important to try to get an idea of what those expenses are going to be. Now, depending on whether you're living on campus or off campus, what your situation is, if you're taking online courses, these expenses are going to change a bit. But generally, you'll have to plan for paying for equipment, books, and supplies, your personal expenses that you may not have had to pay for when you lived at home, room and board, which can be a big chunk. And then, of course, the largest would be your tuition and fees. Now, when you do receive your fee bill, you might be interested to see that you're going to see quite a few fees tacked on. You might be prepared for that tuition, but not for the fees. They could be athletic fees, library fees, technology fees, but you will see them and they will have to be paid for during that academic year. But the good news is that financial aid is available from the U.S. Department of Education, the state of Louisiana, your college or career school, and nonprofit and private organizations like Leela. Now, there are 3 types of federal student aid. The first to consider is your free money. That does not have to be repaid. I like to put earned money in second place. That's federal work study. You've earned that by working, so you don't have to repay it. And then your last resort would be federal student loans. Now you can see here the different types of federal aid that are offered. You can see up to the amounts that you might be eligible for. We've all heard of the Pell Grant, but there's also the FSEOG, the Teach Grant, and then military service grants. Then you'll see your federal work study, and then under that are your different types of federal loans. Now, I've mentioned federal work study a couple of times. This is a great opportunity for students to gain experience in a professional work setting on their college campus. And if you're going to a 4-year college and you accept a position, say in the athletic department or the chancellor's office, that's 4 years of professional employment that you can put on your first college resume. So I do want to mention that the CEO of our organization started as a federal work study student in the financial aid office. And now she is the CEO, the president and CEO of our organization. When you do receive your student award offers, you're going to probably be awarded with some type of loan to meet the gap between what your grants and your scholarships don't pay to help you meet that price tag. So be sure you understand the difference between loans that you might be offered. These are federal loans called direct loans. The subsidized loans you want to accept first because there's no interest that's going to be accruing on these loans while the student is in college or ceases to attend. At that point, they will begin to repay the loans with interest. These are need-based loans. If that isn't quite enough for you to pay for your entire cost of attendance, then you could be offered additional unsubsidized loans. These are also federal loans that don't go into repayment until the student graduates or ceases to attend, but interest is accruing on the unsubsidized loan while the student is in school and thereafter. So you can remember how to select your loan options. The U in unsubsidized means that you always pay the interest on that loan. So always accept your subloans first. All of these monies can be used at 4-year public and private colleges, community colleges, career and technical schools, for part-time or online college courses. But to access all of those dollars, you must complete the free application for federal student aid, known as the FAFSA. Now, this is a graduation requirement for Louisiana high school seniors. And your FAFSA opportunities usually begin in October on the 1st. However, that date has passed, and we've been told that the FAFSA will open sometime in December. We're not quite sure what it is, but we do know that you all are the class of 2024. So you want to complete the 24-25 FAFSA because you're applying for aid for the year that you're going to be in college. Once this FAFSA opens, your counselor, among other people, will let you know that it's time to get started. You'll want to make sure that you're meeting all of your FAFSA deadlines. Your colleges will have priority financial aid deadlines, which means if you submit your FAFSA early, you'll be at the head of the pile when it's time to start awarding those federal dollars. If you're using the FAFSA as your TOPS application, there is a deadline to submit as well, and then there's a federal deadline. You can complete a FAFSA anytime within your academic year and be awarded that money. But to have it ready for you and waiting when you begin college, you want to make sure that FAFSA is done. Now, who can complete a FAFSA? Citizens and U.S. nationals, those with a green card or an arrival departure record, those with battered immigrant status, or those who have a T visa. These students are eligible for federal student aid and can submit a FAFSA. The first thing you want to do is gather all of the documents you're going to need to complete the FAFSA. That will include the student and parents' Social Security cards. This is the most recent card that you have been issued. The student and parents' 2022 federal income tax return. W-2s from your employers from 2022 for students and parents if you worked during that fiscal year. And then your bank statements. Checking, savings account balances will have to be reported as of the date that you submit the FAFSA. They may ask you balances of certain investment accounts that you have, and all of that will be explained in the FAFSA as you're working through it. But it's always best to have all those documents with you when you begin. Now, most important of all, let's see what happened to this slide. I want to talk to you briefly. I want to go play this video for you briefly because the very first step that you need to take is creation of your federal student aid ID. This is how you're going to log into the FAFSA and how you're going to sign your FAFSA. So every student and at least one of his parents, the one who provided the most financial support to the student 12 months prior to the date that he's submitting the FAFSA, will have to sign it. You can go ahead and get started making your FSA ID now because it does have to be verified by the Social Security Administration before you can begin your FAFSA. Let's hear what Federal Student Aid has to say.
Perhaps you're a student, parent, or loan borrower who needs to apply for financial aid, electronically sign your FAFSA form, or access other benefits on studentaid.gov. To take full advantage of all our resources and log into studentaid.gov, you'll have to first create an FSA ID. Your FSA ID gives you access to Federal Student Aid's platform and can serve as your legal signature. Your FSA ID is your account username and password. To prepare to create your FSA ID, have your Social Security number, mobile phone, and/or your personal email address handy. To start, navigate to studentaid.gov and select Create Account. Once you're on the Create Account page, select the Get Started button. If you are completing a FAFSA form and are considered a dependent student, keep in mind that you will need to create your own separate FSA ID using your own personal information. A mobile phone number, email address, and social security number can be associated with only one FSA ID. For helpful tips throughout the FSA ID creation process, select the question mark icons that display next to each field. Next, you'll create your username, enter an email address, and create your password. We recommend not using your school-based email address, since you will need to access your federal student aid account after you graduate. Make sure you don't include private information such as your name or date of birth as part of your password. Quick tip, remember, an email address can be associated with only one username and password. Next, enter your permanent address and mobile phone number. Indicate if you want to use your mobile phone for account access. We highly recommend this option, as it allows you to use your mobile for two-step verification and will help you access your account if you forget your username or password in the future. After selecting Continue, you'll be prompted to choose your communications preferences. On the Communications Preferences screen, select if you'd like to receive communications from us via email or by postal mail. We recommend email. Besides the required communications, we'll occasionally send you informational communications about grants, student loan forgiveness, or income-based repayment plans you may qualify for. You can opt to receive these by email, text message, or both, or choose not to receive informational communications. You'll also have the option to select English or Spanish as your preferred language for the communications we send you. Next, you'll select 4 challenge questions and answers. Memorize or keep these answers in a safe place in case you need them to help access your account in the future. Choose a question using the drop-down and add your answer in the text box. Select Show Answer to see your answer as you type it. Your answers are not case sensitive. You're almost there. On this step, you can review your information and confirm everything looks correct. If you need to make a correction, select the Edit button within that tile of information. After ensuring your information is correct, review and agree to the terms and conditions at the bottom of the screen. Now you'll add two-step verification to safeguard your account. Whenever you sign in, we'll send a secure code to make sure it's really you. You can choose whether you prefer email, text message, or an authenticator app. We'll begin with your phone number. Select the Verify button under SMS verification. You will automatically be sent a 6-digit secure code. At the same time, a pop-up window will open. Enter the code and select the Continue button. You'll see a green verified icon appear that tells you you're successful. Next, verify your email address. Select the Verify button. You will automatically be sent a 6-digit secure code. At the same time, a pop-up window will open. Enter the code and select the Continue button. You'll see the same verified icon, confirming that you verified your email. You'll also see a green box confirming that your 2-step verification is ready to go. We also suggest setting up an authenticator app, which provides the most security of the 2-step verification methods. Select Set up an authenticator app. A pop-up window will open. Follow the steps you see there. First, download an authenticator app from the mobile app store or use one you've already downloaded. Next, you can either scan the QR code with your authenticator app or copy the key into your authenticator app. Then select Continue. Another pop-up window will appear. Enter the secure code generated by your authenticator app and select the Finish button. You've done it. 2-step verification is enabled. But what if you're in a situation where you can't use the other 2-step verification methods? Don't lose heart. You can use a backup code. Your backup code is generated automatically when you enable 2-step verification. Store your code in a safe place until you need it. Congratulations, you've successfully created your FSA ID. If you entered an email address, you will receive a confirmation email. Make sure you note your username and password and keep them in a safe place. You can begin using your account immediately, but it will take 1 to 3 days for your information to be verified by the Social Security Administration. Some of your actions in the site will be limited until your information is verified. However, with your newly created FSA ID, you can immediately complete and sign a first-time FAFSA form. You can also use your FSA ID to access your dashboard, review your loan balance, and explore additional dashboard features. You are now able to take control of your federal student aid journey and access all studentaid.gov has to offer.
So as I mentioned, every senior needs a federal student aid ID. Now, if your parents have already created a federal student aid ID, either for themselves when they were in school or for an older sibling, they will continue to use that ID. It's their electronic signature, so it will follow them throughout their federal student aid journey. If you've created a federal student aid ID already, it's always best to go in, if it's been some time, and log back into it and edit it to make sure that your address, your phone number, your contact information is all still the same. And then you'll be ready to go in December. Now, we use these sheets when we work with individual students one-on-one. You're welcome to use this as well, and I would be happy to send it to you if you request it from me. I do have a slide at the end with my contact information, so get your pen and paper ready. These are live hyperlinks so that you can go to each site to complete each step. So in December, you will receive notification from Federal Student Aid if you've already created your ID that it's time to begin your FAFSA. You will want to complete the 24-25 FAFSA. Whether you're the student or the parent, you'll enter using your Federal Student Aid ID username and password, and then you'll identify your role. Are you the student who wants to complete the student section of the FAFSA, or are you the parent entering as a contributor to the student's FAFSA? You will see your information pop up. This is what you've entered in your FSA ID, so double check to make sure everything is correct. And then you will be asked to provide consent to allow Federal Student Aid to go to the IRS website, grab your tax information from 2022, and pull in the data that they need from the return. Now, you must consent to have this done if you plan to receive federal student aid. If you don't consent, then you will not be eligible for student aid from the federal government. The student will have 5 sections to complete. You can see here you will begin with the personal circumstances, move to demographics of the student's financials, his college choices, and then it's time to sign. He'll be asked questions about his marital status, about his classification when he's in college. And I want to mention this too, because this comes up quite often. Even if you've completed AP courses, or you've clipped out of courses, or you've participated in dual enrollment and you already have those college credits, for federal student aid purposes, you all should list that you are first-year freshmen. They want to know if you've received federal student aid in the past. Everyone should be entering that they're a first-year freshman, and they will not have a bachelor's degree during this upcoming academic year. Next, they'll begin to identify whether you are an independent or a dependent student. You'll be posed with these questions, and you will have to consider these before moving on to the next section. This will determine your dependency status. Let's quickly go through them. Is the student currently serving on active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces? Is he a veteran of the Armed Forces? Does the student have children or other people that he financially supports and will support during this next academic year? At any time since the student turned 13, was he an orphan? Was he a ward of the court? Was she in foster care? Was the student an emancipated minor? If you're not sure what these statements mean, there's going to be a question mark beside each box, and you can always click on that question mark for more detailed description. And then the last question is the student in legal guardianship with someone other than his parent or step parent? If you can answer yes to just one of these questions, you as the student will be considered an independent student, and you will not have to report your parents' demographic or financial information. However, you want to make sure that you have supporting documentation to show that that claim is true. The financial aid office will ask for it. Next, you will be asked questions about your parents. This is to determine which parent or parents should be listed on your FAFSA. So they will ask if your parents are married, or they're married to each other, are they divorced, separated, and it will work you through the series of questions to determine which parent should contribute to your FAFSA. Remember that that parent should also have an FSA ID. Once that is determined, the student will identify that parent or parents, provide information about them so that an email can be sent to that parent requesting that they contribute to the student's FAFSA. You've moved over now into the demographics section of the FAFSA. More information about the student's resident status and his gender and other information to determine to provide information to the college so that they can make determinations on your student aid offer. After you complete the demographics section, the students will move into the financial section. Now, they will be asked if they submitted a tax return for 2022. If they did not, they still must consent. They must have consented to have that checked by the IRS, but there could be some additional information that they want to know, current information. So you'll see a majority of your financial information will be transferred into the FAFSA automatically. And then you will begin to be asked about the colleges that you're planning to apply to. Now, you want to make sure that you're adding all of the colleges that you're interested in. You can add up to 20 each time you submit your FAFSA. So make sure you have a good variety of 4-year, 2-year, or schools, private and public schools, so that you can get a good idea of what you might be eligible for on each campus. It's easier to add all of your schools now than it is to have to go back in, add your school, and resubmit your FAFSA. Now you've completed the personal identifiers, the circumstances, demographics, financials, the colleges, and it's time to sign the FAFSA. But I will encourage you to use those drop-down arrows to show every question you were asked and consider your answer to each question. If you need to make a change, you can use the hyperlink, which is the question itself, and it'll take you right back to that question, and you can make your updates. You can see here that the parents have now received their invitations to contribute to the student's FAFSA. So the student's next step is going to be to sign his portion of the FAFSA. Now, if you all have completed a FAFSA in the past, this is new. The student can only see the student section, and the parent can only see the parent's portion of the FAFSA. Ideally, you will have student and parents sitting down together and completing the form so that everything can be double checked. Once the student signs, of course, he will be notified that he has submitted his FAFSA and what the next steps are going to be. So now the student has completed his section and he's logged off, and the parent is now going to pick up the ball and begin to answer information about himself or themselves. Now, just as I mentioned before, the parent must consent to have his information checked through the IRS and populated back into the FAFSA itself if he wants to be the student to be eligible for federal student aid. And then questions will begin to be asked about the parent or parents. Parents will be asked about their financials from 2022, their income, their working wages from 2022, which have been pulled into the FAFSA. You want to make sure you have a copy of your return in W-2s in case there's information that's not shown on the FAFSA, on the IRS tax return itself. You might have to manually enter some of the information. And included in the financial section is the asset portion. So this is where you're going to grab all of your bank statements and documents showing what your balances are of those accounts as of the date that you submit the FAFSA. You'll be asked if your family participated in any of these federal programs. If you did, you'll want to check each of those. And then they'll be asked about the parent's tax filing status. Did you file married single, married jointly, single, head of household? It will walk you through the process to help you to determine what to report. Federal Student Aid wants to know the family size. So once you've considered and determined which parent is to report information about themselves on this student's FAFSA, which is this parent that provided the most financial support over the past 12 months. That's the family size that you need to report here. You can see that the parent, this student's parents are married, so he's counted. Both of his parents are counted, and then they're going to ask if there are any other dependent children living in the parent's household, or if the parent financially supports another person in the household, say a relative, a grandmother, or whatever. More information about the parent's tax return. You can see that some of this information is going to have to be manually reported. So make sure you have all of your documents with you once you get started. And then it's time to review the parent portion. Make sure that all of the questions you were asked are answered correctly. If not, this is the time to make those corrections before you sign the FAFSA. Remember that this is a legal document, and you want to make sure this is an agreement between you and federal student aid. So you do have to report that the information is correct to the best of your knowledge. Then the parent's going to sign the FAFSA, and the student is going to be alerted that the FAFSA has been signed. If the student completed his section and now the parent has completed his section when he signs, the parent can go ahead and submit the FAFSA. If the parent wants to get started first, he can start before the student does. However, it's always best, as I mentioned, to have everybody there in one place, if you can, to complete the whole form. Now, what if you're living with someone that hasn't adopted you, but they're not your legal guardians either? Say you live with a relative. You still must report your legal parents' information on the FAFSA. So if the people that you're living with are your legal guardians, then they are not considered your legal parents. You are considered an independent student, so you do not want to report that relatives information on your FAFSA. Now, if you're living with grandparents or relatives and they have adopted you, then they are your legal parents. So you will report their information. If you have questions as you're moving through the form, there's some great resources within the form itself, or you can contact me directly and I'm happy to help you through it. Once the FAFSA is submitted, information is going to go from your FAFSA onto each of the schools that you've listed. They will then begin to consider you for student financial aid on their campus. Their goal is to determine what your cost of attendance is on their campus. Look for grants and scholarships that you might be eligible to receive. They can offer you to go to their school so that they can determine your net price. And the net price is what the student and or his parents are going to be responsible for paying. Now, when you get your financial aid offers, they're not all going to be in the same format, but they all should show your total cost of attendance, line items, grants and scholarships, any student loans they can offer you, work study. All of this should show up on your student aid offer. So make sure that you're looking through all of those. If price is a determination, this will be your easiest way to go. You always want to accept financial aid in this order. As we talked about earlier, your scholarships and grants are free money that was gifted to you that does not have to be repaid. Now, there could be some qualifications that you have to meet to continue your grants and scholarships. Federal work study second, because you've earned it and you don't have to pay that back. And then loans would be your last resort. I know that you all are a very progressive school, and I know that you're all already looking for scholarships, and your counselor posts these probably weekly to her page, and maybe they're made through announcements on your campus. This is prime time for you to look for scholarships. So make sure you're taking full advantage. You can find them at your college or career school, through institutional aid, private corporations like your parents' employers could offer scholarships for their children, nonprofit groups like Lila, social groups, community organizations, or churches, all a good resource for scholarships. Lila, again, this year is offering a $1,000 FAFSA completion scholarship. So if you are planning to complete a FAFSA, we're going to let you apply for this scholarship now. Take this opportunity, if you would like, to scan the QR code, and it will take you directly to this scholarship application. You don't have to already have completed your FAFSA to apply, but if you win, you do have to show us proof that you have completed. We have a Choose Louisiana scholarship for students who are planning to attend a college in the state of Louisiana. This is for students who are already enrolled in college. If you know of any, if you have older brothers and sisters, they would be eligible. If your parents are in school, they're eligible as well, as long as they're attending a school in Louisiana. If you find that the federal student loans that you've been offered are not quite enough to cover your academic year, Lila does administer a nonprofit education loan program, and it's called Lila Choice. And the details are on our website at lilachoice.org. And remember, record your information, your username and passwords, your backup codes, because this FAFSA has to be submitted every year that you're going to be in college. We will publish the FAFSA completion guide for the class of 2024 once federal student aid has made that determination and set the deadline for changes to be made to it. And we will send this out to all of you who have applied for our scholarships or who have registered for this session. We'll send that out to you first thing. This is my contact information. If you are working on your FAFSA and you have a question, please feel free to shoot me an email if you have any problems. If you want to set up a session where I'm with you one-on-one to complete your FAFSA, I'm happy to do that. You can contact me at carmichael@lila.org. I'm going to check the chat box. If you can think of anything that you would like to ask me, please feel free to drop those questions in the chat box. If not, you can communicate with me directly via email. It was my pleasure to present. I'm going to stay on just a minute longer to see if any questions pop up. If not, all the best to each of you, and let me know if I can help you. Yes, I will be sharing a copy of this recording with your counselor. And I'm sure she will distribute it to each of you. You're welcome. Okay, I hope everybody has a very good night, and I hope to be receiving some of those scholarship applications from you.